Moving on now, Ukrainian forces carried out a major drone attack on the Russian city of Kazan Saturday. A drone smashed into a high-rise apartment building, though there were no casualties, according to local officials. And then that came as the governor of Ukraine's Kharkiv region said that 8 people were wounded there on Friday night in Russian drone attacks on the regional capital. Here's more for some residents.
I was in the other room, and I heard a roar. The glass in the big room cracked.
There is no logic in the shelling or other attacks. This is another terrorist act committed by Russians to intimidate the local population and create panic.
Well, for more, France 24's international affairs editor Philip Turle joins me on set. Hi there, Philip.
Hi, Erin.
Both Russia and Ukraine have been carrying out offensive strikes over the past couple of days. What's the latest?
All right. Well, what we're seeing here is, remember, Vladimir Putin did a press conference, his annual press conference the day before yesterday. He wants to show that he still has the military capacity to strike Ukraine. And also to take villages in Ukraine. The pressure is mounting on the Russian president to come up with the goods, if you like. We're almost 3 years into the war in Ukraine. Russia still hasn't managed to take control of the country. It believed it was going to just take control within 3 days. I think there is a number of questions, and there are a number of questions that remain without answers as to what Russia's final aims are here, how it attempts to achieve a victory in Ukraine. And coupled with that, we've got the arrival of Donald Trump in the White House and also growing pressure for a ceasefire agreement in Ukraine over the next few months once Donald Trump gets to the White House. And I think that on both sides there is a growing stress that they have to be in a stronger position to be able to negotiate the best position for themselves if they are brought to the negotiating table by Donald Trump, who's made it pretty clear that he wants an end to this war as quickly as possible once he reaches the White House on the 20th of January. So all of those conditions are coming together to make it into a tit-for-tat situation. We had this attack on Kazan overnight from Ukraine into Russia. Just prior to that, we had an attack by Russia into Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, where 1 person was killed and 13 wounded. Then also at this press conference on Thursday, Vladimir Putin was talking about this new rocket that Russia is developing called the Oreshnik missile, which basically is a long-range ballistic missile to counter-effect what they see in Russia as unfair competition from the Ukrainians. Now they've got the green light from the United States to use long-range missiles into Russian territory. So all of this is a tit-for-tat situation. I think in light of what they know, both sides, is going to be the moment of reckoning where they are probably forced to the negotiating table by Donald Trump. How long that's going to take, whether it will take effect, we don't know. But I think we can explain what we're seeing over the last few days by really growing pressure on both sides to put themselves in a stronger negotiating position when that negotiation does begin.
So where do you think this all leaves the United States and Europe in their efforts to support Ukraine, especially ahead of the arrival of President-elect Donald Trump?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because I think there is already concern not only from within Ukraine about the possible withdrawal of US support for Ukraine. That is a real threat, I think, for Volodymyr Zelensky. He's made that pretty clear when he was talking to EU leaders this week. He wants the European Union to throw all its weight behind Ukraine. I don't think there's much difficulty in that happening, but will that be enough to ensure the long-term survival of Ukraine in the face of Russian aggression? We just don't know right now. We don't know where the United States is going to go with all of this. What we do know is that in the last few days of the Biden administration, we've seen increased support for Ukraine. As I was saying before, the decision that President Biden didn't really want to make and was holding back on for months on end about whether or not to use or yet let Ukraine use long-range missiles into Russian territory for fear that this would spark a much wider conflict. He's given that green light now. They've also stepped up the amount of financial support for Ukraine before President Biden leaves office on the 20th of January. So I think that the US wants to put Ukraine, as the European Union does, in the strongest possible position for any future negotiations with the Russians. But we just don't know exactly what President Trump, the future President Trump, is going to do, what his position is going to be. And I think there's a lot of anticipation in the European Union and within Europe itself as to exactly what Europe's position is going to be and where Europe is going to be left once President Trump takes office.
Philip Turle, thank you very much.